Solo travel, traveling alone. Do we like it or do we not like it? Well, I gotta say, I've done both ways, solo traveling, and I've traveled with groups of people. Many times I've done both. I've traveled with one other person, one friend, little bit with family, you know, not too much international travel with family, but yeah, I've done the most travel alone. And that's because that's what I enjoy the most. I think solo travel is the way to go. Maybe it's because of my personality type, but having the freedom to do what I want, when I want, you know, rent the kind of place I want, kind of prioritize certain things, prioritize different parts of my day or certain amenities in an apartment, you know, not having to compromise too much. It's nice, especially with planning your day and like, yeah, choosing what to do on a regular basis. So I find when I come over here for a while, I come over here for a month, you know, I kind of get into like a day-to-day life, a normal living routine almost, you know, not too much living like a tourist. And so I like to have the freedom to, yeah, do what I want when I like, get into my routine, you know, do what I need to do, focus on my work, focus on my health, yeah, stuff like that. And so to me, I've had better experiences in recent years solo traveling. As much as I do enjoy traveling with people, traveling with friends, it can be nice, and it can be cool to share certain experiences and like going to a new place, or like finding a really cool spot like with somebody else. I do get that it's nice to share that with somebody. But I think in the grand scheme, if I have to choose, you know, which has more positives, would be solo travel. My first travel experiences were within the United States. So I was living in New York, Philadelphia area. And yeah, I traveled to Miami. I went to Las Vegas. These were like my first trips, my first real trips outside of, you know, going 2 hours to the beach, to the shore. And so those first times going to Miami, I did have a friend with me. And I mean, way back when, I so badly wanted to have a friend with me that like I even paid for the trip, you know, just because I think it was uncharted territory for me. You know, there was surely still some fear in my head about going somewhere new and, you know, doing this thing that I've never done, going so far away from home. Yeah, I think a big part of that was fear, and it was like the unknown. It was like, this is going to be more comfortable if I have somebody with me. So maybe the first few times, could be nice to get yourself acquainted with traveling in general, to have somebody with you, to have family with you. Also, I think it depends how old you are. So most of my audience is men. It's like 95% men, probably. Maybe 90% men, 10% women. So that's also going to be a difference. For men, we don't need to think too much about like safety, where we're traveling, other than like going somewhere that's clearly unsafe. You know, you're going to South America, you have to be smart. You have to know where you're staying and where not to hang out. Maybe don't have your phone out, or these kind of things. It's still important, but it's different than a female having to choose where she's going to travel and stay solo. There's a difference there. And age too. I think if you're young, you know, if you're traveling for the first times when you're even 18 years old, yeah, maybe it would be nice to have a friend or two, or to go with your family. And so that's what I did. You know, I went with a friend. And then the trip after that, when I went to Las Vegas, went to like a music festival, I went alone. And I had like many friends there from New York who were just like going separately, you know. So I wasn't really alone when I was there. And then shortly after that, we planned a huge trip to Europe, like 20-something day trip, you know, going to Amsterdam, go to Berlin, go to Croatia, you know, go to all these places. I had never been to any of these places. and like somebody put it together from our big friend group. So we had maybe 30 people from New York, like all traveling together, staying together. You know, we're coordinating like Airbnb situations so we can all stay together, or hotels. And so that was an amazing experience. That was a unique experience, I think, going and experiencing that with so many people that I see frequently, you know, acquaintances, close friends too, in the party scene, music scene. And so that was fun. That was awesome for me when I was young. Hello. That was really cool. But I will say to do that like on any regular basis, it would be too much, you know. Like by the end of that trip, I did definitely feel like I needed a bit of a vacation from all of the just like being so social, constantly being around many people, not having a sense of privacy. So as fun as it is, I think it's for me a more of a less frequent thing to do a big group trip like that. And I think it has its place, just like less frequently, you know. And to me, that was more interesting than traveling with one friend or with family. Like that was a special thing, you know. It was my first international travel, and that's kind of what gave me the travel bug. It was like, oh wow, especially with Berlin, I was like, this is such a cool city. I would like to move here at some point if I can. Like right away, that popped into my head. Like this would be such a better city to live in than back home. So I think that's what started it, and that's kind of why I ended up living in Berlin for a couple of years. Was going there that first trip and kind of falling in love with it, falling in love with travel. So we fast forward a couple of years now to around 24 years old, 25 years old. I start going to Southeast Asia, start going to Bali, first place I visited in Southeast Asia. First time I went with a friend. That was another thing where it's like I really want to get acquainted with this very new place. You know, that definitely was a different experience flying to Bali than to Europe, with like the culture shock and change. So yeah, again, I think that was a good experience going with a friend the first time to Southeast Asia, first time doing this whole experience, which is very different from home. I think that was a good move, and I think that maybe also made me fall in love with traveling and Bali at that time. So yeah, I can't say like solo travel only because of that. But I say after that, from that point forward, maybe the past 5-6 years, you know, I'm now 32, things kind of shifted, and you know, I started going alone. You know, the first time I went alone, I think I ended up staying around a month and a half, and this was also to Bali. And yeah, it was just like a special feeling of freedom, being in this completely other country, like so far away from home, with just myself. I'm kind of only now responsible to myself, you know, my own schedule, my own, everything. My work, my focus is for myself now. You know, I'm not socializing for most of the day. I'm not spending most of my day in the common space. I'm now, I'm living alone. I'm living how I would normally live back home. And I think this just plays into my personality. You know, I'm an introverted person, and I typically fall off with my focus, my motivation, work stuff, whenever I'm thrown into social atmosphere, especially at home. You know, if I'm living with one or more people, staying with one or more people, I can tend to just prioritize that a little bit more than things I should. Or maybe my mind can't focus as well on the things that I need to. And so that always comes into play. And so, maybe that's why I say solo travel, right? Maybe it's my personality. So maybe if you are an extroverted person, it's like you might not even think about solo travel. You might not even want to do it. It may not even be enjoyable for you, you know? You may be dead bored and lonely. But this is probably the type of person who would get lonely anywhere, spending time with themselves. yeah, I think the other option is like some people, you know, you have a partner, you have a significant other. Traveling with your partner is going to be a totally different thing than traveling alone. I think that could be nice. That's not something I've really done. You know, I have traveled like with my ex-girlfriend, like a little bit, Berlin to like Prague. You know, nothing like too crazy, and it was enjoyable. It was nice, but to me, it's not as pleasant as going alone. Now, maybe if I fall in love and I'm really in love with somebody and I find the right one, yeah, maybe that could be an awesome experience to experience all this stuff in a new way, you know, with somebody in a romantic way. That could be nice. That could be cool. But I don't have the experience for that. So for now, I'm mostly comparing like solo travel versus traveling with friends, traveling with family. Even family is a separate thing. I think there's always going to be a place for traveling with your family too, or bringing your family out to somewhere like Thailand. So let's say for the most part, this is solo travel versus traveling with a friend or a group of friends. Even like a travel group maybe you find online. Now you're probably going to say that there is no one right way to travel, right? Solo with a group, there's no right way to do it. And I agree 100% with that. I think even for me, still to this day, like I would go travel with a group or with friends, but it's not going to be like the primary thing that I do, you know. So yeah, there's a place for everything, especially depending on your personality. You probably need to find what is the right thing for you, what is the right way to travel for you. One of the most common things people ask me is like, do I get bored? Do I get lonely? Like especially is traveling alone, isn't that like a lonely thing? Especially for long periods of time. And I think it can be, you know. I think if you don't have any hobbies or current like thing that you're driving toward, a work thing, a business, some type of project, maybe you will be a little bit too bored and too lonely. You know, I have been in that headspace before where I maybe didn't have enough to do. And that's usually when I came here on vacation, and I came with like a lot more money, and it was just more about like living the whole month and a half that I was here like a big vacation. And I think doing it like that and doing that alone, to me, it was less fulfilling than like when I'm spending time here now and I don't have a bunch of money, but I have like a focus. I have the YouTube that I'm focusing on, and I'm also working day to day, like needing to sustain myself here. I don't know, it feels more of like a fulfilling life, like a enjoyable time in Thailand. As much as it was nice coming here on like full vacation mode, and I'd love to do that again for a week or two, every single time I came for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, typically the last 2 or 3 weeks, I would start to feel some sense of like, oh wow, this is a long trip. This is like a long time to just go and take a vacation and not work, you know. I don't know, there was always some type of feeling like that. And I think then I started to think a lot and maybe get a little bit lonely or in my head, but that doesn't happen now. It doesn't happen just, it doesn't happen traveling in the way that I am now. And so I say, yeah, maybe traveling for 2 months at a time by yourself in full vacation mode, maybe you'll get bored, you know, in one place as well. But generally, no. Generally, I don't get any more bored or lonely than if I'm in New York City as like a single guy. It's the same thing, you know, same thing. You can change the location and change the environment, but you know, stuff like that is not really going to change too much. At least not for me. I still am living a similar day-to-day life as I would back in New York. I'm going to the gym every day, focus on my health, my diet, doing my work, And so yeah, pretty occupied. Again, if you get lonely, I mean, there's a lot more things to do here, and places to comfortably meet people. I think that's one of the biggest things. It's like I can go meet people quite easily. I don't feel very, it's not much fear to like go up and talk to people, a group of people. If I go out alone here, it's super easy to meet people. You just kind of casually spark up some conversation. At least to me in New York, it feels a little more forced. Everybody's a little bit more with their own groups, no matter what. I always go out alone in New York still, but it's less frequent that I would meet people. I would still end up to myself a lot of the time, where if I go out alone here, I will always end up probably with 4 or 5 different groups of people throughout the night hanging out, you know. So it's a whole different thing. I can get my social fix here very easily, whereas in New York, I have to chase it a little bit more, if that makes sense. I have quite a few people ask me why I don't stay in hostels, especially when I don't have much money. I think it mostly comes down to not having a kitchen. That's like the primary thing I'm looking for when I'm booking a accommodation. Is like I just want to be able to cook my food. If it's a hostel with a shared kitchen, like I'm up for it. You know, depending on the situation, it could be fine. It could be nice. If it's cheap enough that it's worth it, then yes. Sometimes the hostels are not that much cheaper than the private room, and it doesn't feel worth it. I've never been too much of like a hostel type person. Never really backpacked in that way. Yeah, I don't know. Even when if I'm really low on money, then I will just book a private room that does not have a kitchen, and that's typically the lowest that I go. I've stayed in a hostel maybe 3 times in my life, and every time I walked away saying, "Oh, that was not bad. That was fine," you know. But it like wasn't full of people or anything, so I didn't even really get to meet people. I think it could be a cool experience if there was like a full house there. You know, a lot of people coming in and wanting to explore and party and hang out. That could be fun. That could be exciting. You know, it's kind of luck of the draw who's there. But yeah, it does seem like a cool way to meet people when traveling solo. Not to mention it's very cheap. But yeah, the main reason I haven't done it and don't like consistently look for hostels, you know, typically I'm traveling with a bunch of stuff and I'm always looking for a kitchen. And so, yeah, that's what it is. You know, maybe I will do a hostel or two, especially to record a video. That could be interesting. You know, I hear about the Mad Monkey Hostel in Bangkok. I think it's quite famous. I think they have places in other countries too. They have hostel in other countries. And people have told me that they've had good experience with that. They've met interesting people. They've met people that they've stayed friends with forever. So that could be cool. You know, maybe I would do something like that. But in general, I like a private space. Like I said, I'm introverted. Like, yeah, so to me, hostels never like screamed like, book me, book me. It was always like, oh, shared dormitory, 6 beds. Like, you know, I'd rather not. I don't know. That was always my first thought. But yeah, when I think about it, it could be cool to meet people. But just to not have your own private space at all, I mean... In terms of location in Thailand for solo traveling, I think Bangkok is my number 1. So I spend a lot of time in Pattaya as well, and I've made videos about stuff regarding like me not being in the nightlife, drinking, still liking Pattaya, and that kind of ties into this because the social scene there is quite old, just much older than I, and a lot of it is focused around drinking, nightlife, and like bar girls, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not my like primary focus. It's not a big part of my lifestyle, you know. And so for me, Bangkok is a better fit. Bangkok has more, it's a cultural melting pot here, you know. There's There's a lot of music, there's art, there's people from all over the world. So to me, it's more interesting being here and being solo. It allows me to have more interesting experiences. You know, like I said, I will go out and I will end up hanging out with multiple groups of people. In Pattaya, this is not happening in the same way. In Bangkok, it happens every single time. Whether I'm going to Khao San Road or I'm going to like a underground techno party at a club or like a venue, it always happens. And you just meet interesting people. It's cool. Bars as well. So yeah, I think that being in Bangkok, it's the best move if you're solo. For dating as well, like it's the biggest pool of non-working women, Thai women that you're gonna find. As a foreigner, you know, I struggle to date in Pattaya, I really do. For the most part, I just end up staying to myself, and I don't try to match with girls on Tinder, non-working girls, or meet girls out. It's more than it's worth for me, you know. If it happens, it happens, but yeah, there you really have to filter through all of the working women, and so it's not worth it. So I just don't date when I'm staying in Pattaya. But in Bangkok, my mindset changes very quickly. You know, I jump on Tinder, and very quickly I can get some matches of girls that I'm very interested in, who seem cool, who are beautiful, who are, you know, not freelancers. And so that part of it is big for Bangkok. I think it adds a lot to the experience. Whereas, yeah, sometimes that loneliness just comes from, you know, needing to have one date occasionally, or needing to have the occasional night out, you know, go for a movie with a girl, or for dinner or whatever. Yeah, and if you can't get that, then that can be problematic. So I think in Bangkok, having that allows me to feel more balanced, allows me to avoid getting depressed or lonely or bored in general. So yeah, for me, I spent a little bit of time also in Koh Samui. I think I tend to get bored there as well, a little bit more than I ever would in Bangkok. And I feel a little less balanced there too. Yeah, I don't know. Bangkok to me is the spot. If you're solo, especially if you've never been to Thailand, don't just pop into Bangkok and immediately start your itinerary and hop over to a bunch of islands. Spend the time in Bangkok, spend a week in Bangkok. You know, many people I've met told me that they had no intention of spending time here, or they don't really like big cities. And they spend a few days here and they really love it. And they either moved here or they are like really looking forward to traveling here again. So yeah, check out Bangkok. To me, it's still the place that at this point in my life, I most want to live, and I'm most content with signing a lease somewhere and yeah, having a long-term spot. As much as I'm not really trying to do that at all, if anywhere, Bangkok would be the place. So that kind of tells you, to me, it's the most holistic place for me. It's the most enjoyable, balanced place for my life. As a solo traveler, as somebody living by myself, yeah, I think it's the best fit. Let me know in the comments, folks. How do you like to travel? Travel solo? Travel with your partner? You like to travel with a friend? What's your favorite way to travel, or the favorite way you've traveled in your life so far? Let me know. I want to hear about it. I do make an effort to reply to every comment within as quick as I can, within a few days. It used to be faster, but now the comments, it's getting more and more, so it's taking me longer and longer. But I will get to your comment. I do take your suggestions and feedback seriously. The videos are also typically, I'm like 1 week or more in real time ahead of where you're seeing my videos. So sometimes people will leave a comment, a feedback, some type of suggestion, and think I'm just ignoring it, because then 2 days later I upload a video, you know, going against what they said in the comment or something. But that's just because I've already filmed it, you know. So just keep that in mind. And if you do comment, I will definitely get to your comment. It may take a few days. It may not, but I do reply to all comments, and I will keep doing so for as long as I possibly can. And I think if that becomes something I can no longer do at some point, I will definitely bring somebody on board to help me with the comments. But for now, I think I should be able to handle replying to all comments, you know. So that's what I'm gonna do. Something I've observed is that there are so few female solo travelers here in Thailand. At least, I'd say here in Bangkok, in Pattaya especially. I don't know too much outside of that. You know, there's probably more solo female travelers in Chiang Mai than Bangkok or Pattaya. There's probably more in Pai and maybe even like Koh Tao and surely Koh Phangan. There's probably those are like the most. But like I see very few, you know, there are very few compared to Bali, where there is an overwhelming amount of female travelers and like groups of 2 and 3, 4 females. It's like, to me, that was actually the majority. Like I stayed in a couple of guest houses where it was 7 females there and then me, which to me was just like, it was really a crazy thing, and it was mind-blowing to see that. And especially having just been in Thailand, I was like, wow, you would never ever see this in Thailand. It was such a weird feeling. Now a lot of them were Russian, so maybe a lot of like the female Russians who are leaving Russia to somewhere else right now. Maybe Bali is just a more safe, calm, like, I don't know, place for them. That wind, there's sound, there's all sorts of stuff going on right now. I got my hair going all over the place. Bear with me, folks. Okay, all right. Just pretend I cut the camera here, and normally I would just cut the camera, do a little fix up. You know, we got all this wind blowing. Wait till I get past the intersection, and then I would continue. But I'm showing you BTS behind the scenes. All right, authenticity. As if I remember what I was talking about, but you know, I think this is a good video. I think I accomplished my goal of talking about solo travel. So I hope you all did enjoy it, and yeah, I'll see you in tomorrow's vlog.